Hello friends, my name is James Hawkins, and as always I'm joined by my good friends Brian Castiglione and Anthony Alessino, as well as my younger brother, Jack Hawkins. On this show we're all about parlays, overs, unders, spreads, and money lines. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Parlay-Vous. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another wonderful, beautiful, fantastic episode of the Parlay-Vous podcast. It's your boy, D. Malenko of Podcasting, the man of 1,000 nicknames, Jimmy Hawk, White Bread, James Hawkins, alongside younger brother, baby boy, Jack. Two-man game today, a little pick and roll episode, as we've come to love to call it. Something very important just happened today in the world of sports, in the world of sports media, in the world of news, reporting, integrity, all of those
me because you're saying something I haven't seen at all today. So
as junior members of the sports media, as non-credited sports media personalities,
amateur media personalities,
we owe a lot to this guy in the business, and he delivered the final Woj bomb today.
Really?
Adrian Wojnarowski delivered the final Woj bomb earlier today when he announced his retirement from sports news and from sports reporting from ESPN. That's right, Woj, the king of insider information, the king of breaking news, the 24/7 round-the-clock reporting and tweeting, formerly of The Athletic, last 7 years working with ESPN, will no longer be the guy that we go to specifically for basketball news and basketball information, but he did cover other sports as well. Officially announced his retirement today from the industry. He has taken the general manager position of the St. Bonaventure basketball program, men's basketball program. So he won't be able to do both, obviously, conflict of interest. And he released a statement basically saying that he's given his life all the time and effort and everything that it takes to be able to do this job, and he's grateful for it, but he's no longer at a point in his life where he could do that anymore, and I don't blame him. He's been active in the business for like 37 years at this point. So thank you, Woj. Enjoy the rest of your life. Enjoy retirement, even though you won't really technically be retired. I can't imagine being a manager of a college basketball program is easy, light work. But nonetheless, we're going to miss you, Woj. We now turn to the king of sports insider news, Adam Schefter, and Shams. And, those are really the two titans at this point in the game. It was Shams and Woj for basketball for the last 5 years. It was the two of them. So now we're going to be looking at other guys. Maybe Ian Rappaport steps up. There's tons of guys on the national scale that can fill that hole. And it's going to be a good challenge to all those who've been waiting in the wings for their opportunity. But respect where it's due. Enjoy what's going on for the rest of your life, Woj. Honored to be able to rely on you for news for the last 20 years minimum of my life.
My entire life.
Yeah, that's the goat of goats in this industry, and you will be stepping away. So, with that being said, let's start talking that trash.
You got me in a bad transition for me right now, dude. I'm feeling a little, I don't know.
The conversation, as far as the NFL world is concerned, the conversation that everybody is having over the last day and a half or so. Former number 1 overall pick, Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback Bryce Young. The plug has been pulled on him just 2 short weeks into year 2. Obviously, today, David Canales, I believe, has said we're not giving up on Bryce Young. We have no interest in moving on from him. We have no interest in trading him or cutting him. We're not giving up on him. Read between the lines, my man. You benched the guy after 2 games of his second year. So after roughly 19 starts, if he started every game, which I think he has, we've given up on the kid. We've completely abandoned ship. Don't tell me that we're not moving on. The only reason you're not moving on, or you're saying that you're moving on, number 1, because it's a bad look. Number two, because you're fiscally tied to this kid for at least another year or two. It wouldn't make any sense. Even if you traded him, the dead money for this year and next year is going to be through the roof. You cannot afford to trade him or move on from him. Let's just revisit the trade, shall we?
Go ahead.
In exchange for the 2023 number one overall pick, the Carolina Panthers surrendered to the Chicago Bears DJ Moore, 2023 9th overall pick, 2023 61st overall pick, 2024 first overall pick, and a 2025 second round pick. So we are still not out of the premium draft picks that were given up in this trade. I think that 2025 second may have been moved already by Chicago. I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that. So
I believe
obviously,
it was moved to acquire somebody.
I think it was moved to move up in the draft at one point or another. So that 2023 9th overall pick was Darnell Wright. The 61st pick, they moved up 5 spots, and that may have been where that pick may or may not have been dealt, to draft, I believe, Miami cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, who's been playing pretty well for them. And then obviously the first overall pick in this year's draft, Caleb Williams, and TBD on the remaining pick. On top of all of that, that's 4 starters. 4 impact starters on the Chicago Bears team right away for a quarterback that lasted 19 games. You know, I haven't been a fan of him. I think he's the size of a 10th grader. I think that matters in the NFL. To say that this kid was given a fair shake is ridiculous. Completely and utterly ridiculous. Let's take a look at a couple of other recent projects that were in Carolina, right? Who were the 2 quarterbacks in the Carolina quarterback room just 2 short seasons ago? Jack.
That would be Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield?
That would be Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. 2 quarterbacks, I believe. The Bucs are 2-0.
Yes.
Vikings definitely 2-0. I believe the Bucs are also 2-0. Behind great quarterback play from their 2 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Now, look, obviously, you can't just say that there weren't other factors involved, better situations, whatever. What I will say is, I think Carolina as an organization is a dumpster fire. I think it went from bad to worse when David Tepper took over a few short years ago. And I just think it's what's going on in that building. Because on top of this trade, let's also, need I remind you, moved on from Brian Burns and Christian McCaffrey, 2 star players in the league. Count DJ Moore too. So over the last 3 years or so, they've moved on from Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Brian Burns. McCaffrey's the number 1 running back. Brian Burns is a top 3 edge rusher. And DJ Moore is like a top 5 in terms of production and wide receiver. All 26 years old or younger. In terms of production, I get it.
Active production.
In terms of production, receiving yards and stuff like that. All 26 years old or younger at the time of trade. All 3 of these guys dealt under contract still. Did not net back 1 first-round pick. They gave up first-round picks. They didn't net any back to move on from all 3 of these guys. I know everyone's saying, especially lately, the hot button issue has been, this alleged trade that the Bears had in place with the Texans to pick up 2 and 12 and move back from 1 to 2 and pick up 12 in the process. And the Texans would then go and probably draft Bryce Young. And then the Bears had, quote unquote, allegedly another deal in place to slide back from 2 to 9 with Carolina. And then Carolina would go and draft C.J. Stroud. And everyone's now talking about the big what if. What if it was C.J. Stroud in Carolina? If it was C.J. Stroud in Carolina, he probably also would suck. I don't know if it would be as bad as it's been with Bryce Young. But that's not fair to say because we look at C.J. Stroud in a Houston offense that had Tank Dell, that had Nico Collins, that went up and got Will Anderson and had playmakers on both sides of the ball. They completely lack playmaking ability on most of this team in Carolina. On top of the organizational failures, on top of the dumpster fire that is going on inside that building at One Carolina Drive over there, it's a nightmare situation.
Now, I'm gonna step in here because let's just take a step back. Let's let's not dial it in on football for a second. Let's just look at North Carolina and these Carolina teams as a whole. All these franchises based in Charlotte or North Carolina or wherever they may be, they don't have a swagger anymore. There's nothing special about them. There's nothing that makes you say, let me go play for this team. And that's a market thing, but as a whole, in just that area, there's no reason to be there. There's no glory in going there. It's a hard to market place. People don't really who are the best players you've seen come out of or drafted to or in North Carolina right now? Who are the best players?
Right now or ever?
Yeah. Just right now. Think about it.
I mean, I just named a bunch of them. Christian McCaffrey, Brian Burns,
Gone.
DJ Moore. Yeah.
Gone. Who right now? Who would you in
They
the
don't have any
world of,
goddamn draft picks.
just in general, not even just Carolina.
LaMelo Ball.
LaMelo Ball is the number one, the only player you know is from
Michael
Carolina.
Kidd-Gilchrist.
I don't even think he's on the team anymore.
He isn't.
Kemba Walker.
I was
Fucking
joking.
Al Jefferson, dude. We'll keep going.
Don't start talking on the Bobcats like that. The Bobcats didn't do anything to you.
It's not.
Leave
It's,
the Bobcats out of
it
this.
has nothing to do with the Bobcats.
Leave
But,
the Charlotte Bobcats out of this. They don't exist anymore.
but the whole point is, you're in a place where you need to be generating pop. You need to have a reason to have people come to your games. And when I said to you 2 weeks ago, jokingly, "Hey, you want to go to North Carolina, go watch the Panthers play for $1.80, dude?"
Yeah, it was last week.
It was last week.
Last week you could get 2 tickets to the game for $1.80.
That's my whole point, is that you can't, if as a sports franchise and on a national level, if you can't put butts in seats, then what are we really doing? Are we going to sell the franchise?
Nothing.
Are we
The
going
name of the game is fucking sell.
And Tapper is, listen, probably,
ABC, always be closing.
yeah,
And that's not what we're doing in Carolina.
little real estate for you. But my whole point being that Carolina is not a place to be in sports right now, and it's a shame for their sports fan base inside of Carolina. We're praying for you over here in New York. You know, it sucks, but you know,
For a land of dog shit football, and we know all about dog shit football here in the greater New York area.
that's what we're saying.
I feel for you a little bit, but I also don't, because at least you got one of the coolest colorways in the NFL.
Yeah,
and
but for what?
And you're a baby franchise. Like, Carolina hasn't been around that long. I think 96 or 98 expansion is when they came along. Something like that. Jets have been awful since the 60s. Jets have been awful for 50 fucking years, for 50 plus years. Giants celebrating their 100th year of football. Now, granted, it's not as fucking checkered as the Jets. I mean, we have 3 Super Bowl appearances in my lifetime, including 2 wins for the New York Giants. So I know it's been bad the last decade or so. But yeah, we know all about bad football, and I do apologize. I do empathize with the fans in Carolina that are going through this dog shit. But yeah, this is just an organizational failure. This is so beyond football at this point.
This is the second half of the 2010s Knicks right here.
And I'll tell you right now, if Andy Dalton does come in and light it up this week, we just keep seeing more and more examples of why we need to stop. I know Mahomes is the hot one right now, and a lot of people will quickly dismiss that by saying that Mahomes is a generational talent. There is a very good argument that could be made about, with Bryce Young and this next quarterback that we're about to talk about, that this is pretty much exactly what Mahomes would have looked like had he played right away as a rookie, instead of sitting behind Alex Smith and learning the game of football. And I believe this was Coward that said this today. Atlanta gave Kirk Cousins all that money and then turned around and drafted Michael Penix in the top 10, and everybody freaked out about it and said it was stupid. Michael Penix is so far the best rookie quarterback of this class.
Because he hasn't played.
Because Bo Nix looks like shit. Caleb looks like shit.
Bryce looks like shit.
Jaden Daniels Bryce isn't a rookie this year. Jaden Daniels, the minute his first read isn't there, he takes off and runs with it. Penix is sitting on the bench learning from a veteran, learning from a guy that's done it in the league for a decade. And I do agree with the sentiment that we need to stop. I know Brady just said something earlier this week about, rookie quarterbacks. It's a huge disservice to have rookie quarterbacks starting right away, and the only reason we've even gotten to a point where they can start right away is because we've dumbed down the game of football so much for them. But that is definitely why you see so many rookies come in and then they're going to struggle right away. And I don't know if you're going to talk about the college thing with the quarterbacks.
No. I wanted to step in. You want to know who the main culprit is of this whole, who caused this? Josh Allen.
How? He sucked his first 2 years too.
And he got better, but didn't he start his rookie year?
Yeah.
And what happened now? He's one of the top 3 quarterbacks
Yeah, I'm
in
not
the league.
saying you can't get better. But okay, fine, he's a top 3 quarterback.
That's the allure. Josh Allen is a risk. Everyone forgets that he was a risk inside of that draft.
He still makes dumbass throws.
Obviously, but
all
now
of the problems that people had with him coming out of college are there outside of the accuracy concerns, which I would argue, like, does he miss wide open guys? No, not all the time, but like he does not see guys that are wide open. So like there are a lot of problems. I think a lot of the Josh Allen stuff is honestly covered up by how well their defense has played and how well they've been able to run the ball. But
we can pick apart all the things about Josh Allen. You understand, but that's not the point. Is that Josh Allen is now talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's not that, here's what's wrong with Josh Allen. It's, no, here's how the NFL paints him. Here's how he's advertised. Here's how this Bills Mafia, here's how this team, this is our guy.
I think a lot of people in the NFL aren't scared of Josh Allen.
I would agree with you, but the whole point I'm making is the superstar potential out of it.
I understand your point.
And that's the gamble that that's the gamble Buffalo took. And listen, they still have problems because of it, but people aren't understanding that it is a gamble, which, we're on a gambling show, so...
And that also comes down to the organization. I mean, I know a lot, especially in the early half of my football watching career, like Buffalo's kind of a joke, like always one of the bottom feeders of the AFC East. But not really. Like, Buffalo is a strong organization. Like, they are a strong, good, we know what we're about and how we conduct business organization, from the fan base, from the guys taking your money for parking at the stadium, all the way up to the CEO and the owners. Buffalo is a rock-solid organization. Went to 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s, having to lose all of them. But this is a team and an organization that they know how to do it right. They know how to fucking conduct business and how to put the best possible product out there on a consistent basis. Carolina, obviously we can't quite say the same thing. What I will say about this, I'm going to take a small victory lap. If you're a fan of the show, you know that I like to make points, maybe sometimes some outlandish ones. But if and when the fucking facts come years down the line to back me up, I'm going to constantly remind you what I let you guys know. I have famously, on this podcast and in my personal life, bought all of the short sale stocks that you could possibly buy on the Alabama quarterbacks. I don't believe in any of them. I believe that they are all trash. And let's just check the scorecard so far. So we have Mac Jones, second team backup quarterback in Jacksonville. Pea shooter of an arm, cannot cut it. Bryce Young just got benched as a number 1 overall pick after just 19 starts. Book is obviously still out on him, but I'm leaning no. I really, barring injury or something catastrophic, I don't see him starting another game for Carolina, and he'll be on his reclamation arc probably by next season. Then we move on to Tua Tagovailoa. First of all, when Tua was playing this in Brian Flores' scheme, and before McDaniel got there and added Tyreek Hill, and they added Jalen Waddle, and they're trying to do all of these things to scheme him up and coach him up and make him successful. Yeah, sure, they've been successful at times, and they've been really bad at times. I think their record against teams with a winning record is like 3-11 in the last 14 games, right, going back to last year. We know how I feel about his arm. I feel like his arm isn't strong enough. He's accurate as hell. Do not get me wrong. Super accurate quarterback. I think he's a good kid. They're all good guys, good kids. It's not a personal thing with any of them. I think 2-1. I don't even want to get into the retirement conversation, but 3 very, very bad knocked out fencing type concussions in the last year and a half, 14 months, 14 to 18 months. So now we're just talking about longevity at this point. It's hard to see for a lot of people to see him being a 10-year starter in the league. And even if he is, it's going to affect the way that he plays the game. It's going to affect the way that he prepares. It's going to affect the way that he is in the pocket around contact. And even at his healthiest, I believe that he benefits from having two of the four fastest players in the NFL at his wide receiver spots in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Almost every deep ball he throws, you see these guys breaking stride and slowing down to catch it. That leaves us with Jalen Hurts.
You throw Deshaun Watson in there.
Not an Alabama quarterback.
Oh, that's right, Clemson, my bad. I was thinking of
Jalen Hurts. Yeah, sure, he had one very, very good year in Philly. They went to the Super Bowl, they lost. Last season, we know 17 interceptions, the late season collapse. Then we come out fucking last Monday night, this past Monday, on Monday Night Football. I mailed it in early because I had an early start the next day. I had no action on the game. I had no fantasy implications on the game. I was able to watch them twice in a goal-to-go situation on fourth down, chip shot field goals in a game that rewards the team that scores the most points. I watched them deny the opportunity to take essentially free points, go for it on fourth down, and Jalen failed to convert both of them. He fumbled the ball, right, on Monday night? He fumbled one away. Did he throw an interception as well?
Yep.
So now it's going to be turnover-prone problems with Jalen. It's going to be coming up big in big moments. It's going to be when you come in as a second-round quarterback and you're on this team that's got talent all over the fucking field, everywhere. We have the number one offensive line in football. We probably have the number one front seven in football. We have a top three secondary in football. We arguably have a number one wide receiving core in football. You have one of the top five centers I've ever watched play on the offensive line. Eventually you have to stop paying all of these guys when it's time to pay Jalen and it's time to pay A.J. Brown. Eventually you're going to have to suffer a little bit. You're going to have to lose some guys. They did lose Jason Kelce to retirement, obviously. They've been doing good at replenishing. Howie Roseman is very good in the draft and very good making trades. They've been doing good at being able to keep that defense pretty solid. But adding Saquon Barkley is huge. Not gonna deny that. A.J. Brown goes down. Now we're looking at Devontae Smith as the number one. Dallas Goedert in the tight end slot. Jalen Reagor just got cut. Who's the other schmuck that no one wanted that's on their team now? Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson's out there looking like a fucking spaghetti noodle, doing nothing. And I said this the other week. It was the Emmanuel Acho thing that I was just reiterating. I also believe it. I just never heard it put into words like that before. Jalen Hurts has always been good historically when he could sneak up on you. There's no more sneaking up on anyone in the NFL for Jalen Hurts. Don't get me wrong, I think they're going to be a solid team. I still don't view. I thought 2 years ago talking about him and Mahomes as 1 and 2 and why can't he be 1 and Mahomes be 2? I thought that was fucking silly then. I thought it was uneducated and lazy and recency bias to put him as the number 2 quarterback in the NFL. I think even more so now. After the Jets and the Niners laid out the blueprint for how to stop this team last year, they have been a below average football team.
So, my whole thing, I was a Jalen Hurts guy when he did sneak up on you. Because I was like, this guy's killing it. I had him in fantasy. I had fantasy bias. There was recency bias. I was there. But now it's impossible to not put Mahomes at 1. I think for at least the next 2 years.
He's not even 2 or 3 Hurts.
Exactly.
He might not be top 5, dude.
I would put him and Josh Allen in the same category. And I don't feel like that's a far-fetched thing to say.
Is it crazy to say I might want Baker on my team over either one of those guys?
No. Well, here's the thing.
I'm not saying Baker is better than them or more physically gifted.
Baker's just a dog.
Baker is 100% K9, dude. 100% the results came back.
Look at him killing it.
That guy is a dog and a teammate. And he gets excited for his teammates regardless of what's happening with his personal game. I can't remember the last time I saw Jalen Hurts with a genuine shit-eating grin on his face to celebrate a teammate's success.
Think about it, though. Think about all the quarterbacks that you see do that.
Jalen Hurts is either all the greats do it. Mahomes does it.
Mahomes. Think about. Let's just go regular NFL right now. Let's just go present day. Mahomes, who why am I forgetting? Kirk Cousins.
Josh Allen, Jameis Winston.
Josh Allen, Jameis Winston. I would say
Rodgers.
I would say Geno. I would say, why am I blanking right now? I'm blanking on another team. Levis celebrates with the boys. All of these other quarterbacks in the league, there's a difference you can see. And there's a very interesting study that they did on teams that have successful teams, right? The premise of the study was, what's the ratio of physical contact compared to team successfulness inside of the unit, right? Teams that were winners, who won championships or positive seasons, basically, had 60% more contact between teammates, like positive contact between teammates, compared to losing or selfish or teams that were.
Yeah, and that makes so
much sense, and it's incredible to think about.
Can
because
I say something dumb?
Go ahead.
I might rather have Justin Herbert as my quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
I don't think that's dumb to say, but I feel like the book is still out on Justin Herbert right now.
I might rather have Anthony Richardson as my quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I'd say there's at least 15 quarterbacks in the NFL that I'd at least have the conversation. There's definitely 7 that I would take. I would take Matt Stafford at 34 years old over Jalen Hurts at 26.
I would take Tua, dude.
And not even think about it.
I would take Tua over Jalen Hurts.
Tua without the concussion problems, I might take over Jalen Hurts. Like, there are a lot of quarterbacks that I would at least have the conversation about.
Dude, I would take fucking Russell Wilson over Jalen Hurts.
I wouldn't do that, but I would take Fields.
Oh, you're thinking... I'm just thinking quarterback in general.
Well, you have to talk about... If we're just talking about this year, I might take Rodgers over Hurts.
Let me tell you, dude, here's a funny little multiverse thing that we could have ever witnessed at one point in time. Imagine having Jameis and Russell Wilson on the same team.
What a dichotomy that would be.
Oh, dude. Sensational.
I don't know how much Cleveland Browns talk we're going to do today, but get Jameis in there. I've seen enough. And I love Jerome Ford's little report earlier this week that said Jameis calls plays in the huddle like he has a surprise to tell. And I just love that. I love Jameis's energy. I'd love to have him on the show. If you ever want to come on a very small-time New York fucking sports podcast, Jameis Winston.
We'd love to have you.
We'd love to have you. Crab legs on us, pal.
Hell yeah, dude. I was going to say, shout out Crab. I'm always rooting for Crab legs, dude. Jameis, I feel like I've never been able to hate Jameis in my life.
I hated him very easily because I'm going to work on Ducks fan and Jameis over Mariota.
Yeah, I get it. But, Mariota also, it was decent in his own respect.
There was, in college and the draft, there was a game, I want to say it was the Natty or a college, I don't know if they were, I don't think they would have been around for the playoffs. If they were, it would have been very early on. I think it was just a Natty or a conference championship game. Through halftime, not a ball Jameis Winston threw hit the ground. Because there were, say he was 19 for 22, 19 completions, 3 interceptions. And that's the Jameis Winston experience, baby.
Dude,
the balls don't hit the ground. Experience. Someone's catching
Somebody's catching this rock, dude.
So let's move on. There's one other young quarterback.
Jameis Winston would be one of the best point guards in the league if he was in the NBA.
He was a baseball player.
No, well, you know what?
He played football and baseball. He played both at Florida State.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Let's move on. Let's talk about another young quarterback.
We're talking about Khalid.
We're talking about fucking sexy orange. Caleb Williams.
Oh, dude.
We're talking about Caleb, baby.
The bisexual archaeologist.
I don't know if we're going to go that far, but sure. First of all, Caleb Williams, upon getting drafted, texted his punter, "You're not going to be working too much around here." They've punted like 12 times through 2 games, which is fantastic. Caleb Williams has looked, actually, believe it or not, Caleb Williams thus far through 2 games has looked better than I thought he would.
Really?
When I was first thinking about the show today and thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I was going to say this is exactly what I expected out of Caleb Williams. But I actually think I expected it to be worse. And that's saying a lot considering how bad it's been. But I'm not saying he can't turn it around and be something great. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that maybe the Bears should have kept Justin Fields. I'm definitely not going to go as far as to say that they got to get Badgett in there because I think that's nonsense and unfair to begin with. But I am certainly going to stick to my guns on the Matt Eberflus first coach fired business.
You were really big on Bob earlier last week.
I said if they lose, Bob's got to be. I said if they lose to Tennessee, Beanie Bob's got to go. And halftime at that game, I texted Brian and I said, Bob's got to go, dude. I was actually singing on Alessino's couch. First quarter, maybe the middle of the second quarter, I was going, Bob Salah's got to go. Bob Salah's gotta go. But the defense did turn it up, and the defense was responsible for winning that game ultimately and turning everything around. So maybe a little bit. We're not talking about Beanie Bob. We're talking about the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus, Caleb Williams. There was a ball, we were talking about this yesterday on the phone. There was a ball Caleb Williams threw on Sunday night that to the naked eye, first of all, he's running around like crazy. We'll get to that part. He threw this ball that to the naked eye, especially watching the broadcast, looked like he just hucked one into triple coverage, threw an interception, terrible throw, should have just thrown it away. If you go to the all-22 angle of that, yeah, it was still kind of like by definition triple coverage, but these guys were all spread out. Caleb throws the ball, and all three of them drive on the ball and converge, and I think the safety winds up making the play on the ball. If you watch from the time of the throw, that's at the very least at USC a completion, if not going for 6. But at USC, in the then Pac-12, now Big Ten, I believe, or Big 12, were they in the Big Ten or Big 12? Big Ten? Big Ten. Now Big Ten, formerly Pac-12, some guys are fast, right? Some guys are really fast. Some guys are going to the league. In the NFL, everyone's fast. So in college, you can make that throw, and it's going to get there probably, and you definitely don't have to worry about anything catastrophic happening. It's probably going to go for a touchdown. In the NFL, you make that throw, it's triple coverage, you look like a fucking buffoon, and we're going the other way. So these are this is a perfect example of what I saw at USC that I did not like about Caleb Williams as a pro prospect. Still now look, two games into his career, his footwork is garbage. His footwork is trash, which most college quarterbacks, their footwork is trash. His footwork is trash. He doesn't have an absolute rocket cannon laser of an arm where he can Josh Allen it and whip that ball into spots he shouldn't be throwing it to begin with, the old classic Brett Favre move. And he refuses to give up on plays. It's been the joke of Twitter, especially when talking about Caleb Williams, all of these different angles, all of these different plays where he's running around like a lunatic, refusing to get rid of the ball, and then winds up either throwing an interception, fumbling, or getting sacked for a tremendous loss. Now, I did see Kurt Benkert, if you're familiar with him. Kurt Benkert was a backup for a few years, mostly with Green Bay, but he's basically turned himself into like a Twitch TikTok guy. And he's famously said that you could use College Football 25 as a teaching tool for young quarterbacks, like how good the game is. And he'll turn the game on and break down the coverage in the game and be like, yeah, this is your typical, like, cover 2, this guy's here, like, you motion this guy, and so that's basically, he's kind of, without working for any company, to my knowledge, making his career in, like, sports media through Twitch and TikTok and doing, so he posted the video where Caleb got sacked on Sunday night, running around, looped all the way to the right, cut back all the way to the left. And Kurt pointed out, if he was playing with guys that didn't give up on the play, he's like, this isn't as bad as a lot of you people are making it seem. Like, if all 5 offensive linemen you watch just stop at one point and watch him. And sure, fine, but, like, throw the ball away, live to fight another down. Like, this is the NFL, live to fight another down. Always put your number one job as a quarterback in football, but specifically in the NFL, is to always keep your team in a position to win the game late at the end of the game. How do you do that? Every drive ends in a kick, right? You've heard this before? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a punt or an extra point or a field goal, every drive that ends in a kick is a success for the offense. If you can keep your team in the game, keep them around, how you don't do that is by taking 12-yard sacks when you're in field goal range. It's by throwing an interception on 1st and 10 when you could have just thrown it away. things like that flip the field, sudden changes that are going to put your defense in a precarious position now. These are the number one things that we need to work on before we worry about the 9 route or fucking breaking cover 4 or whatever it is. Just do simple stuff. Just tie the tourniquet tight and stop the bleeding. Give your defense a chance. Refuses to give up on plays. Throws the ball. Has unreal supreme confidence in his arm, which I'm not saying I don't want confidence in the guy. I'm just saying you can't make every throw. You know? If you're fading to your left, evading 2 all-pro pass rushers, you probably aren't fitting the ball in a 3/4 of a yard window. It's probably not going to happen. And these are all things that maybe come, maybe don't. DJ Moore is the interesting part of this. Now, I brought this up to you. He's already apologized today as of, which, of course, the fuck he did, because if you get called out on anything that you do bad like that as a professional, whether it's a professional athlete or a professional bartender or a fucking construction guy, whatever you are, you get called out on something at work like that, you're obviously, more often than not, you're going to own it, you're going to apologize, and you're going to try to be better. So we don't expect anything different from these guys. The end of the game, after Caleb threw the ball away, you could see DJ Moore visually upset, body language unwell. He walked over to Tyson Bagent on the sideline, and the cameras caught him. If you could do some lip reading, he said something to the effect of, "I need you out there, dog," to Tyson Bagent, the undrafted backup quarterback. Also, DJ Moore, very outspoken at the end of last year in exit interviews about not believing the team should move on from Justin Fields and saying it's not Justin's fault. By the way, let's look the same argument we just made with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Have the same argument about Justin Fields. He's 2-0, isn't he?
Yes, it's a very...
It's not the same. It's not the same as Baker and Sam, but at a certain point, you got to look around and say, maybe this is an organizational situation. Chicago's another organization that's been a dumpster fire my entire life for the most part. They've played in 1 Super Bowl, don't get me wrong. But maybe at a certain point, this is why I brought up Eberflus at the start of the year, because you can name the amount of coaches that get 2 shots at drafting a quarterback in the top 10 for the same team on one hand. And the more tumultuous this gets, very much so like how Bryce Young is in his 2nd year, and they said, all right, well, another year, improve the infrastructure around him, improve the talent around him. Hopefully he can take that year 2 leap. And then 2 games in, they pulled the plug on him. How long do you think Eberflus has? 0-3, 0-4, 0-5, 0-6?
Well, they're 1-1. Oh, wait, no, did they lose? I thought they won. They're 1-1. They won week 1.
You're right. The defense won the game.
The defense won the game for them.
All right, fine. So 1-7, 1-9, 2-11. At what point does he go all year and finish 3-13, and then we fire him?
I think that's how they have to do it.
Because the way it's going right now, I believe Matt Eberflus is the problem, not the solution. And I'm not saying whether or not I believe Caleb Williams is a good quarterback. I personally don't. I wouldn't have drafted him. But we're not getting the proper coaching and the proper help.
Now, I'm gonna reiterate something you made a point to bring up and be consistent on last year. How many times are we gonna fire a coach as soon as we hire one?
Right, but Eberflus has been there.
I understand that. I'm saying, well, first of all, throw it all the way back. Let's go to the Green Bay offense with Nat Hackett and LaFleur. And then Hackett going to go be a head coach. Can't do that. Now he's the play caller for the Jets.
Aaron Rodgers is the play caller for the Jets.
I mean, all right.
Look at how bad it was last year. Hackett was there last year. How bad was the offense?
They run the ball so much, and I hate it. But it's okay. That wins games, so I'm not going to complain. The point that I'm making is that you yourself have said, why are we going to keep moving on? Obviously, when you know there's a problem, there's a problem. But if you're the Bears organization, if you're the owner of the Bears, which you would know the owner, I wouldn't.
Oh, GM's Ryan Poles. I don't know who the owner is.
If you're Ryan Poles and your job is on the line because you can't put a fucking head coach in the building and you've gone through, what would Eberflus be now? Over the past 5 years. Coach number 4, coach number 3, maybe 5.
Not over the last 5 years. He's been there for a while.
I'm saying as in head coach wise? No, he was the head coach last year. That's it. The guy before Nat Hackett was the coach for the Bears. No, he's the Broncos, sorry. Who was the coach before Eberflus?
The fuck was Matt Nagy, but that was not last year, I don't think. Regardless.
Somebody got fired and then Eberflus got the head coaching position. He did not get it from the start last year. Because he's not been in that coaching chair long.
Just out of curiosity, not that I don't believe you. Because then I would be wrong about him drafting Justin Fields.
So, never mind. Matt Nagy, 2018, 2021. Matt Eberflus, 2022 to present. And the start of last year was 2022 into 2023.
No, last year was 2023, 2024.
Oh, you know what? It has been a while then. I thought there was somebody before him that got fired. Maybe I'm thinking of that whole stupid Browns situation where they've had multiple coaches fired and hired over the past.
Yeah, and so if he got fired, the 2021, Matt Nagy got fired at the end of 2021. Which
and then
means
Eberflus
came in 2021 to 2022.
Yeah.
2021 season.
So it's been...
This is his fourth fucking year.
Fourth year.
2021, 2022, 2023, 2024.
So he drafted Fields.
I believe so.
And Caleb.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Not many coaches get the opportunity to draft two quarterbacks in the top 10 for the same team and live to tell the fucking
You know what?
tale.
I think what I'm thinking of is the Browns, and I think I'm blanking on that. But the point stands. Now, you know what? I'm more inclined to agree with you. Now might be the time to be moving on. 4 years?
If we don't see improvement at some point, if we don't see... Now, look, we knew it wasn't going to be pretty with Caleb right away. But part of the way we're always going to score Caleb is against Fields. So if Fields continues to win games and continues to improve and continues to hold off Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, and Caleb continues to struggle, whether it's fair to anybody or not, you're going to get scored against that because we had that guy in our building. And then we went and got rid of him. You could have fucking picked up a treasure trove of assets to move on from the first overall pick for someone else to go get Caleb Williams, because not many people get compared to Patrick Mahomes or someone like Patrick Mahomes. You never heard anybody in 20 fucking years. I never heard one college quarterback get compared to Tom Brady. Not one of them. It's ridiculous, it's unfair, but we were making those comparisons about Caleb Williams. You could have gotten a lot for that, and the longer that goes on, that's all going to be part of the spectrum. So, look, all of the problems that we've had with Caleb Williams coming out of college into the draft, they've all been highlighted. They've all been egregious mistakes that have been made over the first 8 quarters of football for Caleb, and we'll see if he can get coached up and schemed up and get in better situations and do better. But the last thing I'll say about Caleb Williams before we move on from this topic, Caleb Williams played at USC last year, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people, I don't know if you're aware of this, a lot of people called Lincoln Riley into question as a successful head coach. And they called the entire team, they said without Caleb Williams, that team was trash. And he was the only reason that they were like staying afloat and winning games and relevant in general. And Lincoln Riley only is a head coach and gets talked about the way he gets talked about because of the quarterbacks he's had. Okay, so let's talk about it then. How many quarterbacks has Lincoln fall under the Lincoln Riley coaching tree? It's Caleb, right? It's Kyler, it's Baker, and it's Jalen Hurts. How many other head coaches or offensive coordinators at the Division I level have sent 4 quarterbacks into the NFL over the last 10 years, 3 of them being number 1 first-round picks, and all 4 of them being efficient starters in the NFL? Nobody. So at a certain point, it's not the coach is only successful because of his quarterbacks. It's the quarterbacks are who they are because of the coach. So that's the one thing with that. Shout out Lincoln Riley. Number 2, USC was a trash team without Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was the only thing keeping them afloat. Wrong. False. Everything that you saw 3 weeks ago from the Trojans and Miller Moss against LSU in primetime puts that to bed. that should all put it to bed. They went out there and beat LSU in Death Valley on primetime television. Caleb Williams would not do that. Caleb Williams could not do that. I think Miller Moss is a good quarterback. We'll have that conversation a little later on in the week. Let's go to the New York guys. All right, you got one more thing?
What's the benchmark? I need your thought on this. Obviously you have to beat the Steelers and win-loss, right? To score this fairly. But what would be the benchmark? 7-10?
What do you mean?
What would the...
For Eberflus?
Yeah, what would be improvement to you by the end of this year?
It's hard to even say that because if they go 7-10, but they lose 7 of the 10 by less than 7 points...
Within one score?
Yeah. Then that's different than if they go 7-10 with 9 blowouts. If they go 7-10 or 6-11, but 9 or 10 of those losses come by more than 14 points, that's a nightmare. So the record isn't always indicative of anything in the NFL because, as we know, the majority of NFL games are settled by a field goal or but by definitely 7 or less. Most of them are settled by a field goal. Most games in football, you can point to 5 plays or less that change the dynamic of the game.
Just like the fucking Eagles.
So, if you're 7-10, but you lost 7 games by fucking 3, you can look at that and say essentially the difference between being 14-3 and 7-10 was 7 plays.
Yeah.
7 or 8, 9, 10 plays over the course of those games. So it's hard to say. That's really all going to be about how do they compete, how do they look on film, how are the players responding to them. It's 7-10 is a good benchmark, but I think it's got to be closer to 500 to the playoffs.
Okay, just looking to see where you're feeling.
With all that hype that's coming around these guys, all we've done was add all the pieces all over the field to make everything we didn't do for Justin Fields or Mitchell Trubisky, we're doing all of it for Caleb. So if we don't get any better results than we did with Mitch and Fields, if it's the same thing, not going to happen. Anything else?
No, I feel like that was I wanted to see where you were looking at it because for me, I take everything in stride, especially during the NFL season. Like, I don't like to overthink about things. What's the causes for concern now? It's what are you going to do to win football games is how I think about it. So what do we got for this next topic here?
G-Men.
Oh, God.
We don't have any of our resident Giant fans on today. I can't imagine they're going to say anything different than we would say. Malik Neighbors is a freak. You got one there. Be excited about that. Outside of that, there's not that much to be excited about. I'm not going to come out here every week and repeat all the same shit I said last week about, look, it's going to be a tough season. Does it suck that you scored 3 touchdowns on offense and gave up 0 touchdowns on defense and still managed to lose the game? Of course it sucks. But this is new level of bad. It is a new level of bad in New York Giants football this year.
Oh, man.
So just be grateful that it wasn't worse. Like I said, Jackson Dart, Shadur Sanders, fucking
Cam Ward.
Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward. Start studying up some tape on those guys and decide which one you're going to torment yourself with between now and April because that's the conversation Giants fans should
Get
be
into college football, dude.
If you're root for the Jets.
Yeah, root for the Jets. We did it when you guys went to the Super Bowl.
Root for shotgun Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. Root for Baker in Tampa. He's fun. The New York to Florida connection.
Root for Geno, dude. You guys had Geno for a bit. He ruined your dreams.
There's a fucking tremendous chance if you're a local New York Giant fan living in the New York City area that you have at least 1 or 2 ties to the Tampa Bay area. Just root for Baker. It's fun to root for them. It's a party down there in Tampa. Anything else? The Giants are dog shit.
No.
Let's go to the slightly less dog shit team in New York, the New York Jets. At around halftime, I was ready to call for Bob Saleh's throat. Had they lost that game, I certainly would have been. Not even halftime, like before that, the first quarter, like the defense again just getting dog walked by Tennessee. But then they come up with 2 huge turnovers back to back. They get the strip sack. Will McDonald gets credited with the strip sack on that play, and then they get the Brandon Echols interception. Does not get talked about enough. One, just a phenomenal play, like the fact that the actual catch itself, the fact that he came down with it, but the coverage was fantastic.
Is Echols a safety?
nickel corner, backup
Nickel
nickel
corner.
corner.
Backup nickel corner.
DJ Reed didn't play, so he started. He got the start in place of DJ Reed on Sunday.
Okay. Chuck Clark is now in that safety
Chuck
unit,
Clark's the
right?
safety.
It's Chuck Clark and
Tony Adams and Ashton Davis.
Okay.
I think Ashton Davis is the sub, but the defense ultimately made all of the plays to win that game when it mattered the most. But also, like, the offense played a relatively decent game. First of all, no, the only team in the NFL to not have an offensive holding call through 2 games so far. New York Jets. Outside of Joe Tippmann, not a single player has allowed a pressure in the Tennessee game. Joe Tippmann allowed 2. The rest of them allowed none across the board. Offensive line has looked very good. The run game has looked phenomenal. They've been running the ball well. They've been finding creative ways to get Braylon Allen and Breece Hall the ball. I like running both of them out of the backfield. I like what they were able to do. Braylon Allen making NFL history, becoming the youngest player to score a touchdown in the NFL, and also, I believe, becoming the youngest player to score a rushing and receiving touchdown in the same game.
He scored twice?
Yeah.
When did he score the first time?
It was like fucking...
Garbage time?
No, the first one was not garbage time. And the second one was
I
the
thought the
game-winning
first one was
touchdown.
Breeze.
Breece scored at the start of halftime.
Okay. Maybe that's why.
No, they're lined up in shotgun. Breece to the left, Braylon to the right. They snap the ball. Breece runs like an orbit screen sort of a route.
Right.
Fake to fucking Breece, shovel to Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen gets the corner and goes.
So now, here's the funny thing. That Green Bay offense back in the day, the Nat Hackett offense, they didn't do a lot of double running back sets, did they?
Yeah, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Which running backs were those? It was before...
They ran Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon out of the backfield at the same time, for sure.
Yeah, but that's very much more recently. I'm saying before Aaron Jones.
They'd line up in shotgun with the fullback.
That's right.
They'd have a fullback next to Rodgers.
The OG
100%.
of a running back. You know what? I like that. I feel like 2 running backs is always a fun offensive scheme of football. Because there's a lot
A way to
going on.
scheme both of those guys up open. And then even Rodgers, look, I know he hasn't thrown a 300-yard passing game in 23 straight games for him. Andy Dalton's done it 3 times. His record in that span of games is like 11 and 12, or 10 and 13, whatever it is.
Where he hasn't thrown for 300?
The last 23 games he hasn't.
Well,
yeah.
Think about it. No one's thrown for 300 right now.
This year they haven't.
This year,
but we're talking about the last 23 games worth.
Right.
When it mattered most, Aaron Rodgers came through with a beautiful football drive. Even the plays where he's not throwing the ball, like, people just don't know ball that well. Like, just because it was a run, you can see Rodgers come to the line, identify the linebacker situation, identify where they have an advantage and a disadvantage, check to the run, and then it rips for a 13-yard touchdown. Fine, Aaron didn't throw the ball, but he called the play.
He made the play.
He identified where we're fucked. How do I get to something that will fuck them? I did it in 3 seconds. Braylon Allen's off to the races looking like baby Derrick Henry. When it mattered the most, Aaron Rodgers came through. The offense came through, and they made plays late in the game.
Braylon Allen's a big running back, right? He's like 6 foot.
Yeah, he's like 230. He's like 6'1", 230. He's like a tiny Derrick Henry. The offense looked good enough. It's got to be better. Tennessee, I feel like we have this bias. One, I believe in aesthetic biases. We all know this about me at this point. You look good, feel good, you play good. The Titans jerseys are some of the worst in the NFL right now, despite the fact that they have like the best colorway and like access to the Houston Oilers jerseys, which are like the best throwback jerseys in sports, in my opinion. Right up there with... Now the powder blues aren't throwbacks anymore; they're regulars in Los Angeles. And look, the creamsicles are fun, but they're not great. Like, they're fun because they're silly. They're not fun because they're cool. I think the Houston Oilers throwback jersey is the best throwback jersey in sports for sure. But I just think people get distracted by the fact that they're an ugly-looking team and they've been so like bottom of the pack for a long time.
The logo needs to change.
This Titans team is not a bottom feeder. They're like a middling. They're a formidable defense. Offensive and defensive line, they're formidable. And you win and lose games in the NFL on the offensive and defensive line. So
I think they need a
don't get too upset
revamp.
about it.
I think they need a revamp.
Here's the talking point. It is now 7:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday evening. New York Jets in just less than 24 hours will be kicking off their home opener against the New England Patriots. Sunday afternoon, last chance U superstar Jermaine Johnson blew out his Achilles tendon. Done for the year. We are now down another superstar or star or prolific pass rusher.
Before you make your point, may I interject to make mine clear? I said it from the start of the podcast. I said it from the first episode, the first time I watched the Jets this year. The lack of edge rushing and interior talent is going to be the downfall of the Jets defense. And
pay Hassan Reddick now. How about that? Why has he not already been paid? We lost 3 edge rushers going into the offseason. Fine, Bryce Young hasn't recorded a sack yet. I don't give a fuck. Pay the man. You gave up. John Franklin Myers wasn't a pass rusher. Bryce Young hasn't recorded a sack yet. Carl Lawson sucks. Part of it is the fact that we're able to constantly rotate guys and keep people fresh. Now we don't have that anymore.
That's how they make plays.
We have two undrafted rookies playing defensive tackle. Now the one guy is doing a great job replacing Quentin Jefferson on the inside. And then Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw has been amazing on the inside. We need more help on the outside. You gave up a 3rd-round pick for him. Pay the fucking man. I don't know why he hasn't already been paid. I'm not saying extend him. Look, your base salary is $14.5 million this year. What if we convert it all to guaranteed, fully guaranteed no matter what? We give you back the $1.6 million you've lost over the first 2 games, and we'll throw another fucking $7 million in incentives on top of it. Do something to get this man in the fucking building. It's not excusable anymore. We are down to 1 pass rusher, essentially, who, by the way, Jets game ball this week goes to Will McDonald, the weapon of mass destruction. We have been talking shit about this guy on this podcast since the day he was drafted. Not even shit about him, shit about the decision, the idea that he was going to be a backup in year 1, but the lack of production, the lack of ability to play on 1st and 2nd down. And now we knew this day was going to come where a lot of these guys were going to leave or retire or get hurt. Will McDonald comes through credited with 3 sacks on the day. One of them was that strip sack in the first quarter, which is a weird, whatever. It
Tuck rule type of thing?
Yeah, it was a weird way to call it a strip sack, but it is what it is. And then the last possession, like the last series of plays, at the end of the game, Will McDonald gets 3 straight pressures. Back to back to back, 3 straight pressures. Game ball goes to WMD. Good on him. I expect hopefully he can keep doing what he's doing. I know he put on some weight. We need more help, though. We look forward. We'll talk about it at the end of this pod. Jets home opener against the fucking New England Patriots tomorrow night. Anything else before we guess lines?
No, it's just I really need to reiterate because we're going to be talking about this halfway through the year. By the time we get to the Jets bye week, what's going to be the problem is it's going to be the interior defensive line, and it's going to be it's all we're going to be ranting and raving about. Trade for somebody, do this, get somebody who's a free agent. We're going to be talking about it. And I don't think Chandler Jones is on a team at all right now, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Maybe that guy wants to play football again. Who knows? We'll talk when we get there, and it's going to be funny because we're going to watermark this right here, right? What's today? It's Wednesday the 18th, and it's about 8 o'clock on Wednesday 18th of September. We'll be talking about free agent prospects or trade targets for the Jets inside of the interior defensive line. Let's guess lines.
All right. So, unfortunately, what I'm going to need you to do, we also need Brian's guesses, which I can't get. They're on the phone, but I can't get to them.
Okay, so I'll pull those up, and I'll log into our handy-dandy DraftKings app. There it is.
All right, Thursday Night Football, New England going to JetLife Stadium. The Jets are the home team, and I have the Jets minus 3.5.
I have the Jets minus 4.5, and Brian has the Jets minus 5.5. And our line is Jets minus 6. So that's going to go to Brian.
Wow.
It's a big spread.
I feel shocked. Jets haven't beaten the Patriots on primetime since 2008. Or on a Thursday night game, rather. New York Giants at Cleveland. I have Cleveland minus 7.5.
I have Cleveland minus 8. And Brian has Cleveland minus 3.5. Our spread is Cleveland minus 6.5.
And what did Brian have?
3.5.
So I get that one. Our next matchup here is the Philadelphia Eagles at New Orleans. I have New Orleans at home minus 2.5.
I have New Orleans at home minus 3.5. Brian has lost it for a second. Oh, his sheet's different from ours, so gotta go digging for it. He has Philadelphia minus 2, and the spread is New Orleans minus 2.5. So
Bing bong. Bing bong. Fuck your life. Houston at Minnesota. This one was really tough for me because I just feel like the books this earlier on in the year have like favoritism bias, not really based on what you've shown on the field so far. But I do have Minnesota minus 1.5.
I have Houston minus 6.5 because I was expecting Jefferson to not play.
I didn't even think about that.
Brian has Houston minus 5.5 and it is Houston minus 2. So you're technically closer, but
no, I'll give it to Brian.
I think it's going to Brian.
Denver at Tampa Bay. I have Tampa Bay minus 6.5. Basically, any respectable team that's playing Denver at home has got to be around a touchdown, in my opinion.
I have Tampa Bay minus 5.5. Brian has Tampa Bay minus 4.5, and the spread is minus 6.5 for Tampa Bay.
Bing bong.
Tight game between Jim and Brian right now. My numbers are a lot better this week than I thought last week.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get there. You've always been a slow
start with the
Once
lines.
you caught fire last year, you were on fire.
So next game we have is Green Bay at Tennessee. I have Tennessee minus 2.5. Jim, why don't you give us yours?
I got Tennessee minus 2.
Tennessee minus 2, and Brian is Green Bay minus 1. And it is Tennessee minus 2.
Bing bong!
Back-to-back bing bongs here.
I got 3 bing bongs so far.
Three bing bongs on the day.
Look, it is what it is.
Chi-Town Bears going to Indiana. I have Indiana minus 4.5. Jim, what do you got?
I got the Colts minus 3.5.
And Brian has... Why is this thing so unorganized? I'm so sorry. Indiana minus 2.5. And the spread is Indiana minus 1.5.
So it's Brian?
Yeah.
What did you have?
I have 4.5.
Yeah.
This is the neatest handwriting I've ever had, so I feel like it's not mine every time I look at it. Anyway, Los Angeles Superchargers in Pittsburgh. I have the Chargers minus 2.5 on the road. Jim, what do you got?
Chargers minus 4.5.
Chargers minus 4.5. Brian's got Pittsburgh minus 2.5. And it's Pittsburgh minus 1.5.
All right, good for Brian.
Good for the Steelers, dude. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Chargers are early favorite for the Glizzy God.
Not big enough.
I know, but we'll see. Miami at Seattle. I have Seattle minus 3.5.
I have Seattle minus 3, and Brian has Seattle. Oh, no, he has Miami minus 2.5. And the spread is Seattle minus 4.5.
And I had 3.5.
Yeah, and I had 3. Motherfucker.
Carolina Panthers at Vegas. Again, Panthers suck. Raiders minus 6.
I have Raiders minus 6.5. And Brian has, if I could fucking find it, Vegas minus 4. And the spread is Vegas minus 5.
So I had 6, Brian had 4.
And I had 6.5. I'm right behind you this week. I don't know what it is.
Tie goes to Brian. San Fran at Los Angeles. The Rams, of course. And I'm going with the same line from last week. San Fran minus 5.5.
Brian's got minus 8 for San Fran. And I have minus 5 for San Fran. And the spread is minus 7 in San Fran's favor.
So that's Brian. Brian's doing very, very well this week.
He had minus 8.
He had minus 8?
Yes.
And it was minus 7.5?
Minus 7.
And what did you have?
I had 5. That's it.
It's Brian.
No, my math was off.
Yeah, if I would have beaten you, I had 5.5.
I said my math was off, dude.
No. Detroit at Arizona. I have Detroit minus 2.5.
I have Arizona minus 2.5. Brian has Detroit minus 3.5, and the spread is Detroit minus 3.
So that one goes to me.
Yep.
That's a tough one. All right. Baltimore at Dallas. This one was a tough one for me. This is like a battle of titans, so to speak. Two teams that were heavily favored at one, last week. I'm pretty sure Dallas was heavily favored, right?
Yeah, yes.
Baltimore 0-2, Dallas 1-1, got absolutely mollywopped by what a lot of people are calling the best team in football, the New Orleans Saints. So this one was really tough for me to score, being as what's happened the last 2 weeks. So I'm going Dallas minus 1.5.
Brian has Baltimore minus 3, and I have Dallas minus 3.5. And the spread is Baltimore minus 1. So this game could be a pick-em by the time kickoff comes.
So that's going to be Brian. KC at Atlanta. I have KC minus 6.5.
I also have KC minus 6.5. Brian has KC minus 6.5, and the spread is minus 3.5.
Okay, so no one's gonna.
No one's gonna get a point.
Yeah.
Have I scored yet today?
No, shutout. 2 games to prevent a shutout here, Jack.
What 2 games?
Jacksonville at Buffalo. Sunday Night Football. I have Buffalo minus 7.
We have 2 Monday night games this week?
Oh shit, those are both yeah, we do.
Holy
And
shit.
they're not stacked. They're only 40.
They're staggered. They're 40 minutes
They're
apart.
only 40 minutes apart. Back in the day, they'd stack them. They'd have.
Why do we have 2? Oh, because the new ruling from last year, right?
No,
On the
well,
schedule?
'cause there's usually always 2 Monday Night Football games the first game of the year, first week of the year. But we had that Friday night game in Brazil.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. They always
You know what?
sprinkle a few in.
This one caught me by surprise.
So I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing that up. This is the first of 2 Monday night games. Jacksonville at Buffalo. I have Buffalo minus 7.
I have Buffalo minus 5.5, and Brian has Buffalo minus 5, and Brian Bing bongs at Buffalo minus 5.
Really? Me and Brian
Dude,
are tied.
I was fucking right there,
Me and Brian
dude.
are tied now, brother.
All right, to decide it all.
Washington at Cincinnati. This one's tough, man.
I had Cincinnati minus 5.
What did
and
Brian have?
has Cincinnati minus 4.5.
I have Cincinnati minus 8.5.
It's Cincinnati minus 7.5.
And what did Brian have?
4.5.
So I win that one.
You win that one. Shut out on the day by Bing Bongs.
Take a picture of this scoreboard, send it to Brian, and let him know that I had 3 bing bongs and he had 1. And it came down to the last play.
On it. So why don't you filibuster while I do that?
Well, we're going into the Thursday night game. We're going into the Thursday night football game here. Like we said, it's Jets-Patriots. It's the home opener for the Jets at MetLife Stadium. The spread you said was 6 or 6.5, right?
For
The
6.5,
Jets
yes.
Yeah. So, I'm 6.5 is a little rich for my blood. I don't particularly love that spread one way or another. Everything in my heart tells me that the Patriots are just simply not a good football team this year. But everything I've seen on the gridiron the last 2 weeks is showing me otherwise. That this is still a franchise and an organization that in its bones knows how to compete and knows how to win. And like we were saying about Caleb Williams earlier, Jacoby Brissett is one of those quarterbacks who he's not going to win you the game, but he's not going to lose you the game. He will not make foolish, silly, stupid mistakes to put his team in a precarious position. So for that reason, coupled with how bad the Jets have looked against the run so far this year, I will not touch Jets minus 6.5. I'm certainly not going to bet on the Patriots to cover the 6.5. Here's what I will do though. Fire up that DraftKings Sportsbook. Let me get an over-under.
Over-under? Oh, man. I'm probably going to be so ugly. Ugh.
What is it?
You want to guess?
38.5.
Bing bong!
Really? Really?
You just odd one.
Shut the fuck up. It actually is 38.5. So, under. I'll take the under.
Under?
I'm going to go with the under, and Jets money line, but it's going to be, the juice isn't worth the squeeze because it's probably going to be around, what is it, minus 240?
Yeah, if you put those together, you're at plus 160.
But what, minus 240 is the money line?
Minus 278.
Oh, so I was close, but all right.
Dude,
Those are ultimately, so you put the Jets money line together with under 38.5, and that'll get you positive odds. That'll get
Plus
you plus 160. Those are my
I'd
two
take that
picks.
bet.
Here's if I wanted to be silly, let me see the phone. And while I'm doing the phone, you can filibuster. Or not filibuster, talk about the game.
For me right now, what I'm thinking about the under. I'm thinking about at least 100 scrimmage yards from Ramondre. No doubt. I'm thinking maybe a sack if it would give you that inside of the parlay, but DraftKings bitch made, so can't do that.
Here is my play. Here's my play.
Looking at touchdown scores?
Yep.
Go ahead.
My play for Thursday night, for my let's get silly, let's put a little bit of money to try to make a big bang. Do you already know where I'm going?
I think you going Twins? Yep.
What letter is that?
That's an M.
What letter is that?
That's a W.
Mike Dubb. Mike Williams, anytime touchdown
Oh my
scorer, plus
God.
370. His snap count is getting bigger and bigger by the week. I think we're due for odd touchdowns. We've been getting odd touchdowns in every Jet game so far. We had Breece Hall catch a 26-yard go route lined up as the X receiver. We had Braylon Allen score 2 out of the backfield, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. Alan Lazard has scored already and has been targeted in the end zone. Jeremy Ruckert has been targeted in the end zone. Mike Dubb has been targeted deep, and I do believe that we're due for a weird one on Thursday Night Football, a classic who had that ticket moment. And really, you could pick any of the weird ones. The problem with the Jets is you run out of weird fast because it's basically the 2 running backs and Garrett Wilson, and then after that it gets weird. I don't believe it's going to be Malachi Corley, not this early in the year.
You know what I'm thinking?
Jets defense?
No, you want to get even sillier than that? You want to go as even sillier odds than that? And also, what do you think the odds are for a Jets defense anytime?
It's plus 400. I was just looking at it.
Little am I wrong about last year? But didn't the punt returner win the game?
Gibson?
Xavier Gibson won a game against the Patriots.
No, against the Bills.
It was against the Bills. It was game 1, right?
Overtime. Yeah.
Didn't he score one against the Patriots? I felt like he scored twice early.
I don't know. He could have.
Maybe
He's
a
an
little punt return action. But realistically, if you're looking at touchdowns here, I think you might want to pair Breece and Braylon together. And
lightning strikes twice in the same spot. Look, I felt that way last week about who the fuck was it? Who played on Thursday night last week? Was that Miami Buffalo?
Yes.
So it wasn't that game. I felt that way last week about someone that I didn't think they were going to score twice in the first 2 weeks, and they wound up doing it. But since I can't remember the player's name, it's irrelevant. I'll tell you what, one of my big plays from week 1 was Darnell Mooney, and the Vikings just didn't seem like they could really get anything going offensively at all most of that game. But Darnell Mooney sure as shit scored last week.
Darnell Mooney looks like a different receiver. Shout out to our boy, dude.
Well, I was saying, dude, I'm like, all he did, there's highlight packages of him cooking cornerbacks and getting wide open, and then the ball sailing over his head, or Justin Fields just completely not even seeing him. And that's not going to happen a lot with Kirk. But we're not talking about that game. We're talking about the Jets. And as far as the Patriots go, here's the thing that makes it, and this is why I was now, if you want to pump Garrett Wilson props, I'm never going to have a problem with that. He should see 15 targets a game. He should be getting the Devontae Adams treatment. Christian Gonzalez is a pretty fine cornerback over there in New England. And Christian Gonzalez will be following Garrett Wilson all over the yard, which is, I forgot this going into the whole reason that I said let's take a stab at someone crazy is because Christian Gonzalez will be following Garrett Wilson all over the fucking yard. And that is what brought me to Mike Dubb, ultimately. So
here's my bet. Jets, money line, the under, and Ramondre for 100 from scrimmage. 100, so receiving and rushing. Brings you to plus 900. 3 legs. It's good enough for me.
Yeah, that'll play.
And I believe DraftKings, I think I just got an ad for them offering insurance on it. I think I might just take the insurance on it and see what happens.
That action will certainly play.
I definitely think that's playable action. We're not at field goals made yet.
No,
not
and
there.
I haven't seen enough from either of these teams to really feel confidently about a 6.5 point spread. I'd love to see the Jets blow the doors off of someone. I would love to see the Patriots become the team I know in my heart of hearts they actually are going to be this season. We will see what happens. I'm keeping it really simple. That little Jets money line under 38.5 gets you plus 160. On the side, Mike Dubb anytime touchdown score plus 370. Let's fucking go Jets. Jets, 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 Jets. And the home of the Jets. Anything else?
No.
Well, in that case, then we are brought to you by House of Havoc Podcasting, Stay Thirsty Company, Dino's Skate Park, and Justin's Chop Shop of West Hampton Beach, also now of Moriches. Just north of William Floyd Parkway, just outside of the outskirts of Mastic, we have a new Justin's Chop Shop location in Moriches. Check them out if you're closer, not quite near the east end of the island. It's a little closer, to the eastern central part of Suffolk County. You get the best meat on the island, Justin's Chop Shop. You can bust our chops, but no one beats our meat. Peace out.
Don't bust our meat.